I don't think I can tell you who was the president at the time, but several presidencies ago, I received a phone call from the White House. This is not a joke, I did. I had been out all day, and I came in the evening, and the secretary had left a little stack of those messages, while you were out, so-and-so called. So I quickly went through the list, and there was one that stopped me, and it said, the White House called. Please return this call, and it gave a phone number, and ask for Carol. Call during regular office hours. Of course, I thought it was a prank. So I looked it up, and the phone number was the area code for Washington, D.C. So the next day at a decent hour, I called that number, and the voice on the other end said, you have reached the White House. I said, well, I have a message that I should talk to a woman named Carol. The other person said, fine, I'll put you right through. Carol came on the line and said, this is Carol, can I help you? And I said, yes, my name is Father Herb Weber. And I gave where I was at the time. And I said, you left a message for me. And she said, well, thank you for calling back. Yes, I left the message. I'm in the department where we receive all the mail that's addressed to the president. And there's a lot of letters, and we try to look at them. And most of them we don't respond to. But once in a while, there's something that just jumps out at us. Somebody's calling for help, and we feel it's necessary to personally intercede. And we received a letter from somebody in a little town in northwest Ohio. And the reason I'm calling you, Father, is because according to our records, you are the moderator for the St. Vincent de Paul for the Toledo Diocese. So we're wondering if you can get somebody to go out and talk to this family and see if you can help them. At the time, I was the moderator of St. Vincent de Paul. And the beautiful thing about St. Vincent de Paul is it's all over the diocese in many, many parishes. So pretty much every locale is covered. And I said, yeah, I think we can probably do something. So she gave me the specifics, the man's name. Apparently a person going through a lot of hardships, family problems, loss of job, sickness, you name it. So she gave me all the specifics, and then I got off the phone. And I thought to myself, first of all, this man who wrote the letter, really, really desperate. What do we do when we are down and out? Where do we seek help? Would we write the president? Would we call somebody else? Would we do anything at all? The second thought was the staff that was working on these letters, they had to have done some research to even figure out to contact the Toledo Diocese and to think about St. Vincent de Paul. I was pretty impressed with their desire for a personal response to this letter. The third thing was the line that she used. She said, according to our records, you are the moderator of St. Vincent de Paul. This was way before Google search. So I wanted to say, what records? What do you really know about me? Where do we go when we are in trouble? When we're desperate? Who is it that we will ask for help? How bad does it have to be? How desperate? Or is it more likely that we just kind of roll in a ball and kind of cry and pity ourselves? Or try to do it yourself. I'm going to get through this. There are so many possible ways. The opening song today talked about, come all who are burdened. Maybe not everybody's feeling burdened today, but we do at times. We feel that heaviness. Where do we go? This gospel passage today is about the Canaanite woman who had this incredible burden of a daughter who was possessed by a demon. Now, I have to make it really clear. When you hear possessed by a demon, do not think of the movie or the book, The Exorcist. In those days, they felt a lot of things were possession of the demon, things they couldn't explain. There were some physical ailments, especially things like epilepsy, but there were also psychological issues. So there were different kinds of sickness, and they kind of like lumped it all together. Furthermore, this woman was a Canaanite. This is Matthew's gospel. In Mark's gospel, she's referred to as a Syrophoenician woman. And it doesn't matter because they're one and the same. The border, the northern border of Israel and the border of Phoenicia were together. And so she probably lived on the other side of the border. She crossed the border to seek help. The fact that she's referred to as a Canaanite, they were the people who dwelled in that land before the Israelites had taken it over. So they were sort of the epitome of the other people, a different religion, different race, different ethnic group, pagans, if you will. But this woman was willing to cross the border to seek help for her daughter. She was willing to humble herself and perhaps even humiliate herself because she kept on asking and she kept on asking. The other day I was sitting at my desk and there was this little pesky flea or something, and I'd swat it and it was back and I'd swat it. That's kind of the thing that I was thinking about. This woman was just kind of coming, and the disciples tried to get rid of her, and she kept on coming and she kept on coming. Then it comes to that point where I have to admit, over the years, I was kind of embarrassed to read this aloud because it seems like Jesus is calling her a dog. She comes and talks to Jesus. That in itself is pretty incredible, that a Jewish man talking to this pagan woman, but he's willing to do it. And then he engages her in this incredible style of conversation. We don't do it in the 21st century in America. It was very common in the first century in the Near East, and actually to some degree it's still done over there, where it was almost a compliment. You would engage the other person in verbal sparring, almost trading one riddle for the other. And that's what Jesus does. Jesus says, it's not good to take the food of the children and feed the dogs. Don't take it literally. It's sort of like saying, I am asking you to give me a response. And she does. She gives a real good response. And her response is, yeah, but even the dogs get what falls off the table. It's a way of Jesus basically saying, woman, we are engaged in conversation. I'm treating you like an equal. I'm treating you as a person and not just as someone who's that pesky person that keeps bugging me. So in other words, he brings her up into the conversation and in the process goes beyond just what she's asking for. She's asking for healing for her daughter. But he brings her to faith. If you notice in the gospel, it's rarely really about the miracle. It's about the faith that accepts the miracle. And Jesus doesn't want people just to look at what he does, how he heals somebody. Jesus wants them to relate to him as a person. Let's not look at miracles so much as the miracle worker. And when we pray, it's not just a wish list. It's a relationship with the Lord. That's what it's all about. And in that relationship, Jesus is basically saying to this woman, you are from a different background totally, but you still count. You're still important to me. Every year, we take a group of people from this parish down to Guatemala. And one of the first trips we did, I was walking through San Lucas Toliman, and there on the side of the street was a woman who was selling vegetables and fruit. And she was basically sitting on the pavement, and she was a Cachacal indigenous person. The Cachacalas are the ones who lived there, descendants of the part of the Mayan kingdom. Very colorful clothing, and this complete spread of the greens, the yellows, the reds. It was a beautiful picture. And I wanted a picture. And as I walked by, I thought I better respect her. So I asked the lady, may I take your picture? And she said, no. Probably for a lot of reasons. They're kind of shy, but also sometimes they feel taking a picture is an abuse of their own personhood. And I thought, I understand. but I still want a picture. Well, then I noticed there was another customer there, and the customers one at a time would kneel down. She had like a burlap bag on the pavement. They would kneel down on that and pick the fruit that they want and then pay for it. So I waited till that customer was done, and then I knelt down. And I did buy a few oranges and a couple of other pieces of fruit. And while I was doing that, I engaged her in conversation. And I told her who I was, and I probably played the priest card. You know, I'm a... Sure. And then after the transaction was finished, I said once again, "Now may I take a picture?" And she said yes. And I have that photo hanging on the wall in my office. But I often think about it because we were engaged in conversation. And she knew and I knew that she was not a piece of the scenery. She was a person. She counted. And when somebody counts, then it's a whole different game. Jesus says to the Canaanite woman, "You count. You are part of a relationship with me. And because of your faith, because you believe that I can do this, I can make it happen for you and for your daughter."